I've never done phone sales before. So I was like, I need to do this. I need to test it out, and just see how much money I can make. So I go to interview, fire alarm goes off 10 minutes into the interview of this big office building. We end up doing our interview on the lawn of the big office building, and they hired me, and I became number one sales rep. My first month there, I broke the company record. And I've never done phone sales before. It just was like a blast. Like you could talk to
Wow.
somebody from cold calling them to doing a $4,000, purchase in the matter of 35 minutes, and that was like an adrenaline rush that I've never felt, before.
Wow. You're an anomaly. I hate phone sales personally. And I think a lot of Asians do. If you are an agent who has made 130,000 calls a year for a couple of years, progressed in your career, got promoted, now manages a team of real estate agent, and you still make 1,000 calls a month just to keep your knife sharp, then you probably don't have to listen to this podcast because you already are going to know everything that our guest today is going to share with you. But if you don't fall into that camp, go ahead and buckle up because we have got a lot to learn. And I'm excited for this interview with Zach Geisendorfer, who comes from us from Dana Point, California. We're recommended by Tristan because you guys did a lofty presentation together. And so, as I mentioned, Zach, if Tristan told me to interview you, that must mean you impressed him. So I'm excited to interview you. Welcome to the show, my friend.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I have a blast doing this, so
Awesome.
I'm ready to go. Excited.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's start with let's rewind the clock and we don't have to rewind it very far because you've only been in the business for 5 years ish. So tell us kind of what led you to real estate and then kind of what progressed you. Give us the bones behind what I teased.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't come from real estate tradition. Like you said, I came from the other side of the field. I was selling leads to real estate agents. So quite literally, I was on the opposite side. And I met my business partner, Frances, actually following up with her for 5 months, trying to sell her on the lead that I was selling. At the end of that 5 months, I did not get a lead sale, but I did get a job offer. And after that, I quit my job on the spot, started working for her as an ISA, frontline sales, did about 130,000 calls a year for the first 2 years with her. That was where I really started to hone the craft of how to communicate with homeowners, with buyers, learn a conversion process because I had no prior experience talking with homeowners. It was just talking with agents. After those 2 years, I became sales coach. Then I became sales manager. And after our team was about 3 agents at that point, we were able to grow it to about 30, where we are now. So it was a real fun road going from point A to point B, lots of calls.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And so I want to go back to the lead platform. What led you to that?
Yeah, so I saw a Indeed post one day and it said make as much money as you can sell. Like it was one of the kind of classic commission posts, and I've never done phone sales before. So I was like, I need to do this. I need to test it out, and just see how much money I can make. So I go to interview, fire alarm goes off 10 minutes into the interview of this big office building. We end up doing our interview on the lawn of the big office building, and they hired me, and I became number one sales rep. My first month there, I broke the company record. And I've never done phone sales before. It just was like a blast. Like you could talk to
Wow.
somebody from cold calling them to doing a $4,000, purchase in the matter of 35 minutes, and that was like an adrenaline rush that I've never felt, before.
Wow. You're an anomaly. I hate phone sales personally. And I think a lot of Asians do, which is why I think they can learn a lot from you. Now, can I ask what was the lead platform you were working for?
Set Schedule. I don't know if they're around anymore. I think they may have recently closed down, but it was a pay up front and then also collect a referral on the back end. So I had to get them to commit to not only paying upfront dollars, but then also give a percentage, of all their closings away. So it was a tough sale to start to kind of wrap my head around. But yeah, so it was a fun one. Set Schedule, if anybody's heard of Set Schedule.
Interesting. Well, they closed down because you left. Duh.
Yeah, it went a little downhill after that.
What were you doing before doing that?
So I bounced around a few different positions prior to that. I worked at Sports Chalet, and I sold out the whole row of goggles because they were like, how do you perform well at Sports Chalet? Everybody just kind of shows up on time. So I wanted to be manager, at a very young age. So I was like, I'm just going to sell everything here, that's on the shelves, and they have to make me manager. Because of my age, they made somebody else, manager. So I left that position. I found believe it or not, a smoke shop that I worked at for many years, and we were doing between $6,000 and $10,000 a day in floor sales, anywhere from a $5 product to a $20,000 product. And that was my first experience of like meeting someone at the door to closing them on like a $20,000
Yeah.
purchase.
What the hell is somebody buying for 20 grand at a smoke shop?
So believe it or not, like most industries, there's art involved in everything. And so there are custom glass art pieces. For anybody that's listening, it's called heady glass. If maybe there's some
Wow.
listeners that know about it, but it's essentially an artist blown piece of glass that you can also use to smoke out of. And
Wow.
people would fly from like Utah, they would fly from New York, they would come from all over the world. And I was like, this is insane just to witness it to start, but then to be able to sit down and really try to sell the value behind art, something you're going to smoke out of that's art being worth $20,000 was a fun experience. And I think that honed a lot of my craft to where it is today.
I'm just gonna go out and on a limb and say that somebody who's spending 20 grand on a pipe effectively has
Yep.
got a lot of money to burn.
And they're flying from like New York to come see it with the potential of not even buying it. Yeah, you're
Damn.
you're sitting in a pretty happy spot.
I need to change careers and just
I'll tell
start
you, they're fun
making
individuals
those.
to be around. Yeah, they're
That's awesome, man. Okay, so that makes sense. And tongue in cheek, you went from selling, weed pipes effectively. I'm just gonna just call it that,
yeah.
to selling leads to real estate agents. I mean, natural segue. I can totally see it. Okay, it makes sense.
It's just the way the bridge goes. And one of the reasons I even got hired at that smoke shop was because everybody that applies for smoke shop is obviously pretty normally a pretty avid weed smoker, aka your employees are like sitting around, they're laying on the couch. I was the only person probably applying for a smoke shop that didn't smoke.
Really.
So I was actually totally sober for 7 years, no alcohol, like no weed, no nothing prior to working there. And so I think when he saw that, he was like, how many people are applying here that, aren't
Yeah.
mentally,
Yeah.
throughout the day. And so I think that's where it was like, we were able to take a smoke shop to, like I said, like $10,000 plus, a
Wow.
day in average sales.
Now, did the smoke shop close after you left too?
So they did not do an expansion, which I'll say, but yeah, they're still growing, they're going strong.
That's cool.
The business owner is still a good friend of mine, so it's really cool to see him still doing well.
That's awesome. And now fast forward, which is a really cool story. So, you said Frances Mauser, who is somebody that you were calling on. Ultimately, she didn't want to buy the product, but she clearly bought you, and that's where the quote unquote marriage began.
Yep, exactly. So I've always believed that you sell yourself, not the product that you're selling, because if they trust you and they're comfortable with you, they don't really mind, about the product too much. So what I ran across at Set Schedule was a lot is we would do a 35, 45-minute presentation. They would swipe their card and say, hey, Zach, what was the name of the company again that I just paid $4,000 to? So what I really focused on ever since day one was focused on getting people comfortable with me, like really getting into their world, because once you provide value after the fact, they're going to hear it and take it in a whole different level, in a
Yeah.
whole different way.
Yeah. Let's start there because obviously I know where we're going to go with this. And I already mentioned it. When I got into the real estate industry, same thing, which for me was 25 years ago, but it was immediately leads, pound the phone, and it was a completely different, landscape back then. But I don't think
Definitely.
really anything's changed. Well, other than it's probably harder to get a hold of people today. But there's a lot of no answers. There's a lot of effective F-offs, hang-ups, the whole thing. You mentioned it was a rush. You enjoyed it, which makes you a unicorn. There's far less of you than there are a lot more people like me that are just like, ooh, I don't like this. Same with door knocking, right? And so if with your experience now, what would you say to somebody who is still with us on this podcast, but is this close to saying, I don't want to hear what he has to say because I'm not going to do it?
So the biggest thing that I can say is we can think that we're prospecting, where really we're just calling people like and asking if they want to sell a house. Like that's not an effective way of prospecting. Like it's really not. Once again, people aren't buying the product, they're buying you. So one of the biggest things I can say, if you're like right there on the edge, stop asking people if they want to buy what you're selling, aka a home evaluation, coming to your open house, whatever that may be, and focus more on inquiring about them. Because what you'll find is if you just focus on learning about that person instead of the reason that you're actually calling to begin with, it opens up a whole new world of opportunity. So a lot of sellers will say, we don't want to sell. Doesn't mean that they don't want to buy. I just had a seller literally 3 months ago who says, hey, Zach, no, I'm never going to sell this house. Most agents would hang up after that and move on to the next. I had stood on the phone with him for about 20 more minutes. He ended up connecting with our lender and he purchased an investment property about 30 days after. That happened. So it's like there's so much opportunity that it gets skipped because our mind is looking for that one thing and we're only trying to sell that one product. You as an agent have so many different services and value adds that you can bring to the table. So I think really opening your eyes and start focusing on how can I connect with this person, get them to open up so I can find something I can add value to. That's where I find a lot of our leads, a lot of our clients, closings, etc.
Is there a certain technique that you find works the best as it relates to this? And I'd like you to preface the answer first by explaining what type of a lead you're typically calling on. Is it like a Zillow type lead, relatively lower funnel, right? Versus
Sure.
a Facebook lead that's super high funnel, usually just a nosy type neighbor. What type of leads are you typically calling on?
So I like to hang out in deep waters because most people don't like to hang out in deep waters. So we were with Zillow many years ago. Nothing against Zillow, but our profit margins didn't support it. So a lot of big teams are on like Zillow Flex at the moment. Once again, it's a great, program, but we just don't need it. Like we don't need to pay that percentage. We're one of three mega teams with EXP that is not a Zillow Flex team. And so I like to hang out with data. Like data's my world. So geodata would be just cold homeowners, for rental by owners, absentee owners, vacant properties, for sale by owners, for rental by owners, probates, pre-foreclosures, foreclosures. Like data is where I really like to thrive and where we like to thrive because most agents don't like to go into that world. So a lot of people call expireds. We'll just say that's, of course, a big source of business, for a lot of agents. They all like to call and ask the exact same question. Okay. And if you look a lot of the big scripts online, it's, hey, Jeff, I saw your home came off the market. When are you going to hire the right agent to come and sell the home? It's a very direct message with one thing that you're asking about, which is, would you still, do you still want to sell your home? I like to do a bit more of a pattern interrupt. So they're not just ready to say no, they're almost shocked. So like for an expired, per se, somebody who's getting probably 40, 50, 60 calls a day after their home expires, especially with how
Is
many
that
agents.
common? Is that a common number?
Very common. I've
Wow.
talked to an expired before where the agent accidentally market expired. And within the first week of being expired, they got almost 200 phone calls to their
Damn.
phone.
Damn.
So like I tell all expireds, the best way to become popular is to have your home expire off the market. You'll
I
become
hear
real
that.
popular,
No doubt.
really quick. I like to take a little bit of a different approach with something like that because they're getting so many calls with everybody saying the same thing. I go more like, hey, Jeff, so I saw it came off market. Did you accept an offer? Did it sell? So instead of me trying to sell right in the beginning, I'm just inquiring is the big word that I really like to use. Same thing with a probate. You think somebody with a probate property wants to get called and, hey, do you want to sell the probate house, right now? Typically not. Same with FISBO, same with cold calling geo data around your open house. That's a big one for us. We call all the 3 mile radius around all of our open houses before they go, before the weekend comes. Same
Nice.
thing. We're just inquiring. It's always the same message. We're never selling in the beginning. We have to inquire to find a pain point that we can then add value to then make them a client, instead of just
Yeah.
a piece of data.
Yeah. I like that. Okay, so that's expired. Let's go down let's run the gamut. How do what are some other leads that you have a lot of experience calling on? I assume all of them. So
Yeah.
let's run through a bunch of different scenarios.
Let's run through them. So we do generate social media, Facebook leads, of course, like most teams do, just directed from Facebook to a landing page to then into the system, and we do our initial call, which is, hey, Jeff, I saw you sent in a message on my website. I wanted to make sure that you got all the information that you were there to get. Do you have any questions I can answer, or can I set up any showings for you? I think we all know 90% of the leads go, no, we're okay. We just
Yep.
started looking, or
Yep.
no, we didn't mean to click the photo. Oh, we were just looking at the site. How often do you get a lead from there that goes, oh yeah, oh my God, thank you so much for calling? Yeah. It's super rare. So what we do, once again, they say no, we're already expecting it. They're expecting you to come back and say, well, what are you looking for in a home? Like their brain's already expecting that to happen. I do what's called an off ramp. So we want to move from real estate for a second and build rapport. So I'll go, awesome. Hey, Jeff, thanks so much for letting me know. By chance, are you already local here to Dana Point? Oh, no, we live up in LA County. Oh, nice. How long you lived in LA for? 15 years. Wow. Okay, 15 years. Did you raise your kids and everything up there? Or is it just you and the wife? Oh, no, yeah, our kids are out of the house. All these times. Awesome. What has you looking at homes down here in Dana Point? Once I've built my little bit of rapport and they're no longer uncomfortable with me on the phone, we can come back into real estate talk. But that's where a lot of my scripts and a lot of my coaching that I do with our agents comes in, is we can't be selling the whole time because they're going to kick you off the phone instantly, just like most agents get. So we've taken a batch of leads from an old broker who said, hey, I don't want these anymore. They're garbage leads. They're old Facebook, old realtor.com. They all said they don't want to buy homes. That was a batch of 1,000 leads. We did about, I want to say 17 closings out of that batch of leads the year that we got them.
Wow.
It's just the wrong message. People are asking the wrong question. They're asking, Jeff, are you interested in meeting with me to buy a home? They're probably not interested. That sounds like a terrible time to them
Yeah.
to sit down with someone right away and talk about home. Hey, Jeff, would you be open to the idea of sitting down and going over a step-by-step plan that gets you into your next home? It's just a different question,
Yeah.
that we're asking.
Yeah. Is it kind of tried or true? You're always kind of going with the same messaging basically in that scenario?
So I joke with a lot of my agents a lot because agents love to get extra creative. They get bored pretty easily. You can go listen to 500 of my recorded calls. All my intros will be exactly the same.
Really?
Same energy, same tone. Hey, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, this is Zach. How's your day going? Great. Hey, the reason for my call, boom. And then I get into it. And based off their response is now where I start to mirror and match their personality and get an understanding on how I'm going to connect with this person. But in the very beginning, it is the same every single time, like
Mm,
no change.
yeah. I think that is a something that people need to hear. Like it does get boring, but that continuity is probably a big driver to the success that you've seen.
Yeah. If you think about an Olympic swimmer, how many times a day do they go and swim? How many hours? It's ridiculous. They'll
Yeah.
probably swim for what, 3 hours a day, for 3 years to then be on the stage and perform for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
something like that. So having just that repeat intro, like on lock, my brain doesn't have to think about it for a second.
Yeah.
The agents will laugh because I'll be filling up my cup of coffee while the dialer answers. And I'll just peek at my screen really quick, see the name, go, hey, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, this is Zach. How's your day going? Great. Hey, the reason for my call is like, my brain doesn't have to think about it because it's just so implemented in there that you could catch me in the car. You could catch me at the beach. You could catch me in the office. Like, it doesn't matter I'm gonna perform on that level because it's just been so implemented into my brain, over the last few years.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. Okay. So now let's stay on that same vein. Now
Yeah.
you give them your spiel, and my guess is you probably get some sort of a kind of annoyed response more often than an excited response. Oh, I'm so glad you called. I can't wait to share with
Mhm.
you. And so let's go with the more common response, which I'm going to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to assume
Yeah.
it's more of an annoyed response. What's kind of one of the most common responses or objections that now you then have to follow up overcome?
Yeah. So I'd say the number one direction that people just get hit with is I'm not ready. Everything, because that's the easiest push off. And it's the easiest way, like in our brain, oh, I'm just not ready to talk with you yet,
I
Jeff.
was just
You know,
browsing.
I was just browsing. If you think about it, they all kind of meet around the same thing. I just started looking. They all mean I'm not ready.
Yeah.
That's what all of those questions mean.
Yeah.
So what my goal is from there is to once again inquire. If you think about it, your intro is a question. The middle of the call, discovery, those are questions. Your close is a question. Everything's question. There's no part of the conversation that should not be a question. Now it just comes down to the tone that you're saying in. People love to ask these big, confident questions right off the bat. Awesome. Well, Jeff, why aren't you ready yet? Oh, Jeff, tell me more on how you're not ready. You think I want to hear more about why you're not ready? It's like the last thing I want to hear about is, oh, we're not ready because of this. We're not ready because of that. We're not ready because of this. I want to hear what makes you like what would make you ready. Like, let's get into the good zone here. Awesome. Hey, Jeff, I totally understand that you're saying you're not ready to purchase a home yet. I would like to get a better understanding of your goals and what you are looking for in a home. Can you just break that down for me? Because now what they're doing is picturing what the home is in their head. And instead of qualification questions, bedroom, bath, square footage, and jumping into qualification, we're in discovery.
It's like you're
We're
almost
able to,
you're almost kind of like guiding them into dream world,
yep,
which is a good
it's
place
a
for someone, right?
great place. Agents love to talk about the negative parts on the phone. So if somebody goes, I'm not interested. Awesome. Why aren't you interested? Like for some reason, we like to talk about these negative things. The last thing I want to talk with you about is why you're not interested
Right.
in buying a house with us. I don't want to hang out in that land. You're
Yeah.
you're setting yourself up for failure. When people end the call with me, they answer the phone again because I've given them an enjoyable experience. And that's one of the number one tips that I give people to keep people on the phone and to get them to answer the phone. Because I think we can all agree, like we can talk with people on the initial conversation, them answering the next call is a whole different story. Then
Yeah.
we call them 5, 6, 7 times and they don't answer.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you give them an enjoyable time, I always make people laugh. Always. Stupid jab jokes, whatever it is. Like do what you need to do to make that person smile on the other end of the phone and they will answer the call the next time that you call. But if you're just qualifying them the whole time, oh, so did you speak with a lender? Okay, that's what we need to do first.
Yeah.
Agents love to qualify their time when they don't even have client. Why are you qualifying your time when you don't even have a client to go show homes to?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Okay, so at that point, does it would you say it's let's just say you get to step 3. I would call that step 1 was overcoming the I'm not at this time kind of thing. Step 2 is obviously trying to get them into dreamland. Once you get them into quote unquote dreamland or get them to talk to you about what it would look like if they wanted to buy, where do you go from there then? Does it become, I guess, much easier at that point?
It's a 50-50. You can always get to the end of the appointment. And of course, I like to tell people I close in discovery. I don't close on the close because they're already so comfortable by the end of our middle of the conversation. But I'll ask for the appointment 3, 4 times on a call sometimes before we get the appointment. If you're hanging up after your first ask of an appointment, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. Like you're just giving up essentially, compensation checks and stuff like that. You need to be asking 3 to 4 times before that phone hangs up. So I'll start with the initial ask, just the initial ask of a commitment. And it always has to do with them, not us. There's no reason for them to do something for us at this point. So a lot of agents say, hey, let's do this. Let me set you up on a home search. Let me connect you with the lender. And it's not, they've heard it 100 times. Like that
Mhm.
doesn't really sound exciting. That sounds terrible. Hey, let me connect you with my lender, and you can talk to them about going through the qualification process. People hate going through qualification process.
Yeah.
That's their nightmare. So I go, hey, Jeff, because you said, okay, that this is your first time purchasing a home, what I think would be extremely beneficial is for us to sit down and go over a step-by-step plan on exactly how that looks. So if you have 10 to 15 minutes for me this week, I would like to sit down, create that plan for you. And at the end of the day, you can decide which direction fits you best. Sound good? Sounds good. Does Wednesday at 2 o'clock work for you better, or does Friday at 1 o'clock work better? But that sounds a lot better than let's meet at the office to look at homes on my computer so we
Are
can
you
go see homes.
are you having them come to the office, or are you going to their house?
So we shoot for the office first. If it's a buyer, if it's a seller, we'll always try to get in the house.
Yeah.
And then we back up to a Zoom. So if they say no to the in person, awesome. Well, hey Jeff, I totally understand that you're saying you're about 6 months out, but 6 months goes quick. So what I'm open to doing for you is doing a Zoom instead of an in person. That way you can still get the value across and you can still make a confident decision on what your next steps are.
Yeah.
Are you open minded to something like that? If they say no to the Zoom, then we go for the phone call. Then we still shoot our one last shot. Awesome. Jeff, can you just help me understand? I know you're saying you want the market to shift, before you meet with anybody or talk with anybody. Help me understand what a shifted market looks like to Jeff.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to know like what they're even thinking in their head
Yeah.
without knowing in their mind like what a shifted market is? Awesome. Well, Jeff, because you said you want the rates to be at 5% or whatever before you do this, this is what I think the next best steps are. Let's hop on a quick phone call instead of a Zoom, instead of an in-person. That way I can at least put all the puzzle pieces in front of you, because Jeff, building the puzzle is a lot easier when you have all the puzzle pieces put in front of you. At the end of that call, you can tell me what your timeline is and what options suit you best. What's a good day this week that we can have a 10, 15-minute call?
Yeah.
So there's always a backup to a no. I'm not battling objections ever, 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 ever. I'm
Yeah.
inquiring about them.
Yeah. What's the backup to the phone call?
Backup to the phone call is I'm going to discover even further. I'm probably going to shoot for another phone call. The worst case is, oh my God, Zach, I have to go. I'm walking into my job. And they give you like the total shove off.
Yeah.
While you're asking, hey, Jeff, what I'm going to do is take everything we just talked about. I'm going to put it in an amazing email for you. All I ask for you is that you open that email, read that email, and let me know your thoughts. Okay. I'm going to put everything in there that has to do with you finding the best homes on and off the market here in Dana Point, whether you're looking now or whether you're looking 6 months from now. Then what I'm going to do is give you a call Tuesday afternoon between 12 and 1 so I can go over if you have any questions. So worst case in not getting the appointment is setting an expectation of when you're going to be calling instead of just getting off the phone.
Yeah.
Because when you call Tuesday at 12 to 1, even if they don't answer the phone, they're going, oh, okay, wow, he called.
Yeah.
And then I call them the next Tuesday and the next Tuesday and the next Tuesday and the next Tuesday and the next Tuesday until they finally answer the phone. They show up at the office, sign an agreement, and they purchase a home with fam.
Yeah. Wow. That's good. That's real good. Now, going back to the scenario where well, I guess any of the scenarios, but really the buyer, which is probably far more common, the one that pushes you away as hard as possible, which is again probably most of them or more of them. I doubt many of them are like, oh yeah, where do I sign? Do you always? I assume you're always dumping them into a drip pretty much immediately.
Yeah. So let's just say a buyer says, we're absolutely not ready. No chance for meeting with somebody. Like, you don't get the appointment, you don't get commitment. Okay, at the end of the call, because it obviously does happen. So three things are going to happen. Okay, after that point, one, properties need to be going to the email because that's the first thing that they want. Why? You might as well give them what they want because you're asking for what you want. Okay, so they're going on a property alert instantly. Okay, like right away. Then they're going to go on what we call our buyer email drip. Very simple, I know, fun language over here. And what it does is twice a week, it sends them a value prop. We call it a buyer benefit. So for example, we give our buyers 2 hours of free handyman anytime they purchase a home with us. There's no way for them to know that if you don't tell them that. So email goes out and then review follows. Email, review, email, review, or they're all emails, but benefit, review, benefit, review. So they're constantly seeing you win is what they're doing. And they're seeing how your clients are winning, in the market. And you'll see their open rate stays much higher when they get what they want, which is homes. And then the other email is strictly value. I'm not asking for anything.
Yeah.
in those emails. I
Yeah.
never ask for anything over email because people just don't respond, very often. I like to get people on the phone, on text message, on video. That's where I like to ask for commitments.
Yeah. Do you guys do anything with, and I always have to ask this because that's, this is my MO. It's the world I live in. And, my vision is always, and I love talking to guys like you because we operate very differently, but I also love it because it's always that validation that there's not one way to skin the cat and have success. There's a lot of different ways. However, as I always tell people, I'm like, this isn't your end all. You need to do this with those other things, right? And do you guys ever like try to get them? And the reason why I love social is because I get them into my spider web, so to speak. So it's like, even if I start with a postcard or I start with a lead or I start with a phone call, my end goal, the short-term goal with rather than putting them into a CRM, although that's of course also the goal, is to get them into one of my social pages because now I got you like organically. I got you to
Totally.
where if I can get you to engage with my stuff, and usually it's like, it's an email with a QR code that sends them to a video that was the top 5 pizza joints in the community, something that's actually,
Yeah.
like you say, value based. But if I get them to watch the video, then the algorithm says they like your stuff. Now, every time they open up Instagram, my stuff's going to show up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you guys
Totally.
play in that sandbox at all?
100%. So this is the way I look at social media, because you're right. We're a very different playing field, but social media edifies. So when you do get on the phone,
Yeah.
they trust you,
Yeah.
already. So at that point, that's where we are doing a mass amount of retargeting. So we do a ton of retargeting. Okay, out of our database, any buyer, anybody who has an email is getting retargeted. Okay,
Nice.
with our social media, it's driving them to our Instagram, our YouTube. Those are the two biggest one for us, but we do
Yeah.
do a lot of Google that will also drive them there. But the goal is that the social media will edify us. So then when we do happen to call them and say, hey, this is Zach over at FAM, it doesn't sound like this super, they're like, oh, that sounds kind of familiar,
Yeah.
and you're already edified. So I have a few agents on my team that crush social. Like, it's the main leg to their business is social. It's definitely
Yeah.
not my specialty,
Yeah.
but I always just think prospecting, like cold prospecting, cold calling, door knocking, whatever it may be. I'm not a knocker, I'm a caller, but they're essentially the firewood that's building your fire. Then you need all these different legs to fuel your fire, like to pour gasoline on it. Social media would be the perfect example of dumping gasoline
Yeah.
on top of your fire. Because if you can build a database of, so my first year calling, I built a database of around 12,000 sellers with valid emails, valid phone numbers. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Call all 12,000 of these people every month? No chance.
Yeah.
There's no way
Yeah.
it's happening. So driving them to our YouTube, driving them to our social was a really good way to keep them engaged. So when I did call them, we could have a good conversation.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah. And I mean, for me, and what I've learned is that, and that's why I love having these conversations. And it comes from truly ignorance because I've been so far away from that for so long. Because what I've found is that when I make that relationship, that parasocial relationship on social, it shifts. Like, there's zero selling. It's more like, oh my God, Jeff, I love your content. Man, I'm so glad you called. And then it becomes just a conversation about the area and, oh, about that event coming up. And, oh, I saw that video. And then it's like, it's so natural to slide in and be like, by the way, and it's like, oh God, yes, let's talk. You know what I mean?
Definitely. So
Um,
like
different.
my goal for an agent is never on our team, like, is never that they be making thousands of calls a month, like years into their business. Like, that is the
Yeah.
last thing that you want. They'll burn out. Like,
Yeah.
you will. Like, I never want someone to have to cold prospect forever. So we use a lot of tech, okay, to help build their pipeline, because your lifeline is in your pipeline. So really, all prospecting is doing is building up your pipeline. So I love social. My big thing is, like, I can't sit and wait, like for DMs and stuff. So I have agents that send out
Yeah.
DMs and they prospect through it and they crush it. They
Yeah.
do really good with that. I'm like, Instagram's gonna ping me for sending 1,000 DMs a day.
Yeah.
Like,
You're
they're
right.
gonna be like, hey, what are you doing?
You're
So
right.
on a
Yeah.
call, I can, do as many as I want. I
All
can
day
do as
long.
many text messages as I want, voicemail drops. Like, I can do as many of those as I want, to where, like, we've had an agent come on and sign like 7 agreements, in the matter of 4 months, because they were like, cool, I know my math.
Yeah.
This is how many conversations I need to have to set this many appointments, to sign this many agreements, to close this many deals. And they can do it through social. They can do it through calling. They can do it through door knocking. Like, as long as the conversations are there, like that's what everybody forgets. They see all these videos online on Instagram's the best, Fizbos are the best, calling's the best, and they bounce around to all these different things where like they're all conversations. That's all it comes down to. Whether it's social media, you have to have a conversation with somebody. If it's cold calling, you have to have a conversation. Like that's what it all comes down to. So you should find, is what I would suggest people find where like you're good at having conversations. Because if you're posting 100 times on social media, but you're not like DMing people, you're not commenting, you're not
Yeah.
having conversations with people,
Yeah.
I don't know how well it's
Yeah.
doing you.
You're
People
hoping
forget
and
about that
praying.
part.
You're hoping and praying at
Yep.
that point. Yep.
Yep. All comes down to conversations. That's like everybody forgets that one metric will run your
100%.
entire business.
100%. 100%. And the one thing I will shift off this, but the other thing I will say too, is so many people make social about posting. No, that should be number
Yep.
2 on the list. Number 1 is outreach. No different than what you're doing, but it is prospecting.
Yep.
It's searching terms, finding people to connect with, making sure, you know what, one thing agents don't do, which drives me bonkers in mass, is like they all have a database, a sphere of influence, past customers, friends and family, church, previous career, and they all put them into a CRM. But very few that I talk to have gone into Facebook and Instagram and spent a couple hours going down that list and friending and following every single person, because it's another avenue and it's non-invasive. You know what I mean? And it's
Yep.
just, anybody listening to this, like if you haven't done that, get your head out of your ass, go do that. Like
Yep.
it's such an easy place to stay in touch with people in addition to what Zach's doing.
Yeah. Well, because Jeff, what do you see if you went and followed 100 of your SOI, let's just say on social media, what's typically the first thing you see happen?
I mean, honestly, you're probably, I don't even know what the percentages are, but, and you know, because a lot of them are just going to ignore it.
Yeah.
But you know, maybe 30 to 50% will if it's true SOI, they know you.
Mhm.
And you don't have some goofy name. They'll probably follow you back. They might even go
Yep.
stalk you a little bit. You know what I mean?
That's the number one thing. That's what we learn. And that's where we tell a lot of our agents, like, hey, you can do whatever you want on social media, but if you're not outreaching and having people like following and following back
Yeah.
is one of the number one things. So I learned that from a coach a few years ago. And so I went to my phone book. It was like 1,000 people, or something like that. And I followed to where I had, and it was more of a, I don't know, it was something in my chest where I was like, oh, I shouldn't be following more people than I have followers. Like, I feel like a lot of agents get
Yeah.
stuck
People
in
feel that
that.
way. Yeah.
Guess what? It took like 60 days and I had more followers than I was following because a lot of those people followed back. It's a law of
Yeah.
reciprocity. Like they're going to do it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then they're going to like one of your posts because you commented on theirs. And
Yes.
it's just how it goes. But if you just hope and sit there that, oh, my video is great and it's going to bring me all these sellers, that's not what I've seen,
Not
work.
gonna
It's
happen.
still, yeah, people forget like social is outreach.
Yeah.
Like it is like DMing and commenting and following and wow, great page. Oh my God, you and the kids at
Yes.
at the
Yeah.
waterfalls. Like you have to be active, on
Yeah.
there to create the conversation.
Yeah. The problem is most agents open up Instagram with the right plan, and then the kitty cat video gets their attention, and before you know it, an hour has gone by. They're like, I gotta get out of here, and then they never accomplish anything that
Yep.
they intended to accomplish. I'm gonna go make phone calls. I gotta follow Zach's
100%.
lead.
They go down the dark hole. They go
Yeah.
down where, oh my
Yeah.
God, I've been scrolling for 40 minutes and I didn't even pick out the music for my reel yet. Like you just
Yeah.
got lost in the.
Yes. Yes. 100%. All right. I want to go back to the lead. So we really went down the expired listing. We went down a social media type lead. Let's talk about like a FISBO, or is that very similar to expired?
Very, very similar to an expired. So always we don't do like a ton of FISBO. They're probably the one of the least that we do just because I love that they're motivated sellers. Don't get me wrong. Everybody has their own, like I said, they have specialties. And I know some people that literally do multiple listings a month with FISBOs. My experience is they have some sort of vendetta, already typically like against an agent of some sort. So
Yeah.
that's typically, I'm just inquiring, hey, Jeff, my name's Zach. I get right off the bat, I'm not calling you to sell your home. I am hyper local and I do a lot of business in the area. So I like to keep a pulse on what's going on here because we do list a lot of homes, which means we bring a lot of buyers. So I would love to have your property as the backup opportunity to one of our listings in case we have a buyer that matches it. Can you just give me a little bit of a breakdown of the highlights of the home? Anything I should know about the property? like they've said they want to sell on their own first. So why am I going to battle that within 10 seconds of knowing each other is the way I kind of think about it. Why
Yeah.
would they listen to me? They don't even know who I am. I'm a stranger on the phone.
Yeah.
So I like to inquire. Awesome. Hey, totally get it. So you did add in the spy. Kind of see that in the photos here. Okay, what else have you really done? Like, what should I tell my buyers? Fill my tool belt for me is the way I really like to. So I'm like, hey, help me line my tool belt. So when I do go to talk to a buyer, I actually know how to sell your home to them.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm just looking at some photos on Zillow with a bedroom and a bath and a square foot. That makes it hard for me to sell your home.
Yeah.
Then once we get comfortable together and I can make a few jokes and we can start to let loose, then I'll say, like, hey, yeah, I mean, I think we can both agree this is a really amazing home. Why do you even have it up in the first place? Like, what's going on here? Now I'll start to really learn about what's going on. Oh, well, Zach, actually, I'm selling it because me and my wife, we have to move, to Utah to, be with our family. And we really just, we want to get this one gone, but we don't want to pay any fees. We don't, okay, totally understand. Now we actually know what's going on. So my whole thing is like, I need to break down the barriers to get truthful answers because otherwise they say, why are you selling it? And they'll just say, oh, well, because we're moving.
Yeah.
Because we need to move. And you don't really get the real answer. So I'll say, like, that is where I thrive. And it's something I do better than I'm going to confidently say anybody else almost in this industry is like, give me 2 minutes on the phone with somebody. It could be a bad, wrong number. I'll have the two other addresses they own within those 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really good at breaking down walls. And a lot of people think it comes from scripts. It doesn't. It comes from tone and it comes from how people hear you on the other side. Because on social media and on door knocking, we have facial expressions, we have body language, we
Yeah.
have all these other cues. Over the phone, you only have your words and your tone. That's it. That's all you have.
Yeah.
So like one of my ISAs, I'll give an example. I said, test, like, go for it. She had it in her. She was like, I want to call this guy as an angry homeowner, like, we're going to do it. She hit me with everything under the book. And every time I answered it, ah, and was pissed that it didn't get me to the point where she ran out of things to throw at me where she had to say yes. At the end of it, it's because all I'm ever doing is inquiring. Like, I'm never battling. I'm always just trying to break down walls, get you comfortable. If you notice when I do our scripting, even here, I'm like, so Jeff, what's really going on with the home? Here. Like, I'm always on their level. I'm never curious isn't scary, is what I always like to say. We'll just keep it simple. Someone who's curious is not scary.
Yeah.
Someone who's trying to sell you is scary.
Yeah.
Someone who's trying to sell you is super scary because you're like, I've already told you, but I want to sell my home on my own. Why are you not listening to me and trying to sell me? You can sit back and really listen and just I download and inquire and learn. I only add value for the last like 5% of the phone call.
Yeah.
The other literally 95% is me just asking a million questions, and trying to learn what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And so when you do that with a FSBO, is it typically leaning in with the buyer approach, or have you ever tried an approach like I was just thinking, I interviewed a guy who crushes it with postcards, and one of his MOs is he always calls every listing when it goes under contract to pick the brain of the listing agent just because he wants to get the scope. So he knows every time he goes into a listing presentation, he's got all of the ammo, which is really smart. I don't know why every agent doesn't do that.
Definitely.
But almost that approach, like, hey, I've got a few listing presentations coming up. I sell a lot of homes in the area. So I always want to know get the pulse of what might be selling. So can you tell me more about your home? Like almost like non-invasive, like I'm not trying to sell you anything. Just give me the deets so I know what I can then go to my sellers with to say they can sell their house for. Do you think that approach would be just as effective or less?
I do think it would be mainly because once again, he's inquiring. That's all he's doing.
Yeah.
He has another form of inquiring instead of selling, them what's going on, which lowers their barriers.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, sure. Well, yeah, we haven't, we did this many showings, this many, we have two, whatever it is that they're telling them, they don't feel like they're like like being qualified, they're just answering a question, that somebody was curious about. So one thing I am very careful of, agents love to call and say I have a buyer when they don't. And it is like the number one way to shoot yourself in the foot. Sellers are so ready for that I have a buyer. That's why I make it very clear, hey, I don't have one knocking at my back door, to make an offer on your home. I
Yeah.
go, I do want to have my tool belt lined, for when that does happen, because what I do is I put deals together.
Yeah.
Okay, like that's what I do. So I want to make sure I'm prepped. So I really like his approach because it's a version of inquiring instead of like, that's said, it's the number one approach I can tell anybody listening to this. Like, do not call and say you have a buyer if you don't have a buyer.
Yeah.
Don't just call FISBO. Hey, I have a buyer that really wants to see your house, and so I'd love to do this. And that you show up with no buyer, and oh, they couldn't make it today. Can I still come to the house? Like, it's just very unauthentic. They feel duped, which is you're not getting any business. You know, people feel duped by you.
Yeah.
So his approach is inquiring. Ours is very similar. It's, hey, we sell a lot of homes in the area, so I do feel confident that we could bring one, but I need to know about your home and line my tool belt so I can even sell your home to those buyers.
Yeah.
You know, that we're doing. And I just sit there and inquire and learn. And usually 5 minutes, 6 minutes in, they forgot what the original call was about. And they're just talking with Zach. You know, he
Yeah.
said they're not talking with an agent. They're just talking with Zach, you know,
Yeah.
about what's going on.
You just gave me another idea. And coming from going back to my realm, I was even thinking so I've built a big audience, and this is what I teach, like how to dominate a geographic area, right? And I've done it, I'm doing it. And so I almost think I could go to a FISBO and say, hey, it's Jeff Fitzer with like the Ozarks Lifestyle. I applaud you for selling your house yourself. You've probably seen my channels. If you haven't, no big deal. I'm not offended, but I highlight homes for sale. And I've got 100,000 eyeballs on my channels, and some of my listing videos get hundreds of thousands, millions of views occasionally. Worst case, it's going to be a few thousand. Can I come out and do a listing video of your house and just offer them something for free? And truly, because I want it for the content. And then obviously it kind of slides me in the door to have a conversation one-on-one. You ever tried or heard anybody try that approach?
So one of the biggest things I heard in there is maybe not what most people heard, but it was, I applaud you. So the number one way to get somebody to like you is to give them a compliment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all I do all day long. I just compliment people like crazy.
Yeah.
You know, so they're like, hey, Zach, I've been battling for this and that. And I'm like, hey, first off, before you even continue the call, good job.
Yeah.
But good for you. Most
Yeah.
people would have given up by now. Like,
Yeah.
good for you for holding in and really like compliments are the number one way. So I think if you led with the compliment of, hey, good job for you, you're selling your home on your own, which is something that most people go to years, you know, like of getting licensed and learning training, and you're doing it
Yeah.
on your own. Like, I applaud you. Good job. Let me know if this would be beneficial to you, you know, or if, hey, I don't know if this would be appropriate is one of my favorite ones because they're like,
That's
oh, well,
good.
I really want to hear, you
Yeah.
know, like, so, hey, I don't know if this would be appropriate, but I actually run a major, you know, social media, you know, following. We have a podcast, we have a YouTube,
Yep.
Instagram. And what happens is a lot of people come and view our channel to look for homes that are for sale. So
Yeah.
I'm not trying to charge you, but I like to highlight every home that's in our market so I can have all the options for all the buyers that are looking for the best homes for sale here. Your home is obviously one of the best homes. So what I'd like to do is have it on the channel and see if there could potentially be a buyer, you know, that would want to make an offer on it. Would that be appropriate, or am I stepping my boundary?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. They're like, yeah. And they, you know, kind of get there.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
like that approach a lot.
Cool. Yeah. Well, good. I passed the test. I'm literally just spitballing here. So
Yeah.
I like this. I like this
People
conversation.
always
I
say
like this.
always be closing.
Yeah.
Always be closing. That's cool and all, but always be testing will take you a lot further than always be closing.
Yeah.
Because something will only work. Like, yes, cold calling works, but like I change our scripts all the time. You know, like once it like a year, like we update them, we change little tweaks, like tiny little things. I'm not saying the whole script changes, but we're always testing something new, which is why I still personally call every single month, is because things
Yeah.
change and I find better versions of saying things, and I get no's and find different ways to get, yeah, like things you have to always be testing something new, you know, to see like what is your next thing that's really going to crush it. Don't get stuck in the rut
Yeah.
of just doing the same thing like forever. Plus your brain can only handle that for so long, the exact same thing forever. Like keep
Yeah.
always testing something new, keeps it exciting, keeps it different, you know, and really keeps you wanting to grow, you know, and keep you in abundant mindset instead of just like, oh, I'm just going to make 100 calls today and hope that I get, you
Yeah.
know, an appointment out of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, this is a fascinating conversation because it almost everything I'm hearing you say really goes back to communication 101, which I feel like real estate agents really suck at because they're so quick to want to vomit their knowledge. And if you just go back to communication skills 101, I just mean human to human. You and I
Yep.
have no business relationship whatsoever. If I come into your, let's just say we meet at a coffee shop and I'm like, "Hey," whatever, something sparks conversation. I ask you a question and I'm ready to respond about something about myself before you even get the response out. Like, that's the problem I feel like with salespeople. Whereas what you should be doing is thinking about your follow up question and the follow up question to that and the follow up question to that. Because when people talk about themselves, they feel more comfortable with you. And
100%.
it's like that's effectively, I feel like, what you're doing in a very challenging, one of the most challenging ways to do it because people are already on the defense the minute they say hello.
I think one of the best compliments you can get is I feel heard. Okay, so
Yeah.
like really, and it's funny, you'll see it in our script. They'll say the intro and it literally says shut up. Like right in big bold letters there, it literally says shut up. Like
Yeah.
stop talking because like they will keep going. What happens like agents think that like it's the prospect is like, oh no, like this is like no, you're just like not even letting them talk. You're
Yeah.
just trying to get your value and your point. That's why I say like I don't bring any value up till the last like the close essentially. Like I'm not
Yeah.
talking about like how we can transform your house and our staging and our professional photos. All that comes at the end. I'm just writing down on my notes like what's important to you, what's not important. So like really just shutting up and like listening to what's going on will take you so much further. And I'll tell you like a super quick story on it. There was a FISBO. Okay. One of my ISAs called them and booked an appointment. It was $2.8 million, a new build here in Camino Capistrano. It was a cool house. It was not worth $2.8 million. Okay. Not even close. So I went and did the appointment. Like I kind of just walked in. I was there with one of the agents. I was like asking him, I was like, hey, what's going on? Let's walk around the house. He was a great guy, but he told me a story in there and he said he's gotten pitched by like 25 brokers. Like I could see listing presentations happening there all the time. Like
Yeah.
he was just constantly, talking with agents. And he goes, yeah, I built this house for my mom, my brother, my sister, and me to live in. But since the big stairway, none of us can live in it because they all have terminal diseases now. And I take care of them every single day. And I said, how long have you been trying to sell the home for? And he goes, I've been trying to sell it for about a year and a half.
Wow.
And I go, and you're doing open houses every weekend. He goes, yeah, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm here from 1 in the afternoon till about 6 o'clock at night. And I said, okay. So we left. Okay. And I sat down and I really thought, and I'm like, why would he be holding open houses every weekend? Why would the price be the way it is? I said, this guy doesn't even want to sell the house. Like he does not want to sell the house. He wants to use it as an escape from where he just was taking care. Like this is the only place that he's not taking care of three other people and he gets to just hang out with himself.
Yeah.
So I went back to the house one of the days on the weekends and I brought a non-branded open house sign, like none of our branding on it, a big 18-foot flag that says open house here. And I said, hey, would you be okay if I put these in your yard for you? There's no branding. My phone number is not on them, but like, would you be okay with me trying to get you some traffic? And he goes, yeah, of course. I said, awesome. I'm gonna go to Starbucks. Do you want anything? Kind of expecting him to say no, to be super honest with you. And he said yes. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, okay. And he goes, I really love the peach iced teas. I started bringing that man peach iced teas, an unbranded open house sign, an unbranded flag every single Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for about a month. He would call me every Sunday night and give me all the leads that came into this open house that weekend.
That's fucking
I would show
brilliant.
up to his house Friday morning and another broker would be in there giving him a listing presentation. He'd say, give me a second. Go over and talk to me. Take the flag. I'd give him his $3 peach iced tea. Talk about cost per lead being nice and low.
Uh-huh.
$3 for like 6 leads that are worth about 1.8 million to 2 million
Oh,
in price point.
man.
And all I did was listen to what he was saying, where all the other brokers were, I have the best listings and then professional photos. He doesn't even want the house to sell.
Yeah.
He doesn't even want to sell it.
Yeah.
And it's still up.
Yeah.
It's still a FISBO there now to this day. It's been like a year and a half again, and it's still there. I stopped bringing peach iced teas. I can only do it for so long. But like it was like he
You should
literally
pop
doesn't
it.
want to
You should
sell, and
pop
all
in
these
every
agents
once
don't
in a
hear it.
while. You ever pop in just every
I do.
once in a while? Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have an agent that lives down the street from them now too that we have on our team. And so she'll kind of like drive by and just, see what's going on. And another agent did list it at one point. for like 3 weeks, and then it was no longer listed with them, and it went right back to FISBO. It's $1 million like too high. We won't take a listing like that. It's not doing us good. It's not doing the seller
Yeah.
good. Like there's no point for anybody to take,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
listing. So he did ask us at one point if we wanted to put it up at that price. And I said, I'm sorry, like, no, like it's just, I wouldn't be serving you,
Yeah.
by our team putting it up $1 million high, but I am happy to support you any other way, possible.
Did
But
you
that's like,
have you never gotten to that conversation with them? Like, dude, it ain't gonna sell for that price, or are you just kind of leaving that
I
alone?
did.
Yeah.
He goes, I don't understand why an agent won't sell it for that price and keep the whole commission. It's one of those, deals. I go, hey man, like you just have to look at the comps. And I show him and I go, hey, the same price as yours has a full ocean view. Okay. Doesn't feel like a new build. You know how new builds can kind of feel like, when they weren't done the best, sometimes a great house, don't get me wrong, but it's like thin walls, metal roof. It's just not the same quality of build, as the other houses that are there. So I've showed him, and he just goes, "Their house sucks. Their house is terrible. This is that," because he designed it himself.
Of
He just,
course.
of
Yeah.
course, he thinks it's the best of the best. There's power lines going right across the, above the house. Like it's a once again amazing area. I love it, but it's not a 2.8, $1 million house.
Yeah. Well, I think the moral of that story is how you thought outside the box. And actually, I was going to ask you before you told the story. I was going to give me the craziest story. I think that qualifies. Maybe not crazy as much as it is just validating, make the right word, or a great lesson.
Yeah.
Because again, every agent goes in with commission breath. Go in with an intent to actually understand and learn and watch what happens as a result. And as you mentioned, you've gotten tons of leads as a result for $3 a pop. I mean, that's insane. That's such a great story. I love that, man.
What's a
That's
Facebook lead averaging right now? Like $7, $8, for a
yeah.
lead. That's like a pretty well priced, Facebook lead is
For a
around there.
garbage lead too.
Yeah, for a garbage lead. And these were open house leads, which to this day are our highest converting lead. Right now, they're still the number one source of business for us. We push open houses hard. Like
Really?
we don't do average open houses because they are some of the best leads. You get to meet them in person, just like social media,
Yeah.
except you're there in person. So it's just another way of being able to see someone face to face. So like
Yeah.
we're talking 5,000 calls, 18-foot flags, voicemail drops. Like we do mega open houses. We've done 200 leads a weekend, out of a
Really?
team's open houses, and ISAs then call them, the agents follow up with them, and like they're one of the quickest turnover leads, that we've been able to experience.
Are you guys you're holding your own open or just going out and holding anything open?
So for our agents, we'll do a mix. We have some agents on our team that have multiple listings, so they'll kind of bounce around between their own. Other agents, newer agents on our team will take advantage of that and host, the listing agents opens, but that's still not enough listings for everybody. So we actually have a full-time open house manager, and what they do is prospect other open houses from the brokerage. So we'll have up to 30 to 40 options, typically for an agent to pick from for the weekend, so they can make sure they're in an open house with their doors open no matter what. I'll give one of our agents, Chase, a shout out. He's doing 5 open houses this weekend. Most
Wow.
agents don't do 5 open houses a month. He has
Yeah.
Friday morning, Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday night, Sunday morning,
Wow.
all in the same little pocket. The
Yeah.
same people will go into 3 of his open houses in the same weekend.
Yeah.
You think they're not using him as their
Yeah.
agent?
Yeah.
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 They're like, well, it's like seeing 7 of your posts in the same day. Same concept. Like, wow, his signs are over here too. They were just over there yesterday. Wow, this guy's selling all the homes. But
Yeah.
he's just hosting a lot of open houses. That's all he's
Yeah.
doing.
What I feel like we could do an entire episode just on that.
Yeah, totally. That's a whole different, like, that's the ball game. I tell anybody, like, open
All
houses
right.
are a huge missed opportunity.
You realize what you just signed up for with me. You just said yeah. So I guess we got to go. We
Yes.
got to do part 2 and just go deep on open houses and whatever else still need to talk about.
Well, let's do it. I would
We'll
love to
do it.
deep dive on those.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
All right. Let's
100%.
do it. But before let's wrap this up. Let's just,
Cool.
I don't want to, because obviously there'll be a little bit of lag in between episodes. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to connect with you?
Best way for me is through Instagram. Today because my phone's always ringing.
Yep.
We're always dialing on it. So Instagram is Zach Zen Real Estate. So ZACHZEN Real Estate. That'll take you right to my page, and I have like our company page linked and everything. If you want, like, we're all about sharing is caring. If
Yep.
anybody wants free resources, they want to see like how we're getting buyers signed, like all of that, I'm an open book. Like that's what I love to do as a passion. So if anybody like wants a free sit down or just discuss, like I don't sell coaching or anything like that. Like feel free to ask anything you'd like, and we're here to support 100%.
And I can already tell you what the first question I'm going to have for you in the next episode is why your parents chose Zen as your middle name. We're going to end right there, and we're going to start there next episode. Zach, it's been a pleasure. It's been a fun conversation. I'm looking forward to doing it again, man.
I appreciate it, Jeff. I had an absolute blast. I look forward to part 2.